Currently, I am the CEO of a new company under the RPG Group umbrella. It is something that looks at future mobility areas. In terms of my education, I graduated in psychology and went on to HR from TISS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Bombay. Along the way, I have kind of had many hats. I started in HR, then I was doing a little bit of post-merger integrations and due diligences, then core strategy, channel sales, and now the CEO hat. So that's as far as my professional journey's been in terms of what I like to do apart from the work. I love spending time with my kid. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I love writing. I love books. So fair amount of time in terms of reading and of course traveling. So the usual works. There's been a lot of data on this, especially in the recent past after I think the World Bank report. A lot of newspapers kind of talking about it. So any economy, like as far as research goes, any economy goes through that U curve, right? So what you will see is as the economy does well, women participation goes low, right? So now this is something that has happened country after country. And this happens largely because women's employment typically starts as a need, right? So it happens because you need to make ends meet, the money in a household is not enough, and hence the woman goes to work. The woman at this stage is not really going to work out of choice, but she's going to work because, hey, we need more money at home. However, the moment the economy starts doing well, the woman is the first person to be withdrawn or to withdraw herself from the workforce. Now, this is where it gets interesting that ideally, after this has happened, the women's education and women's awareness should ensure that the women go back in the workforce. That is something that we are not doing, right? The discretionary participation in the workforce, where a woman believes that her own financial independence is important, that she needs to put a job as a part of her identity. That's something that is so ingrained as a part of a cultural fabric that doesn't take precedence. So in terms of why I think this happens, I think this happens purely because of the way I think our society has manifested itself and the way we have evolved culturally. So while the economy is following a certain path, we're not really seeing women being part of that economic growth, right? Women are still kind of doing what they're doing. So all the women who are participating are really in informal jobs, so you can't really get the numbers on them. The women who are in important positions or critical roles, jobs in STEM, jobs in IT, etc. We don't really see the women participation increasing there. And this is really happening because the responsibilities aren't changing. As far as the debate is concerned and the whole Wipro episode, I think Wipro did what it did well within its rights, right? So there is this integrity of an employment contract, where if it is very clearly outlined that ABCD is not allowed, then you're signing up for it. There is nothing wrong with it outside that, right? So if there is an agreement between an employer and an employee that the employee would like to pursue opportunities outside and the employer is okay during the same working hours, then I see absolutely nothing wrong with it, and I believe that's the way it should be. I think the ability to treat an employee like an adult is something that would be important, right? And that conversation should happen. So what I see changing is more and more of these conversations becoming mainstream. So we've not really had a lot of employees demanding something like that. Hey, I want to pursue ABCD. And typically when you talk about moonlighting, people think moonlighting is just about another source of income, right? Moonlighting can be about anything. It can be about another hobby. It can be about anything else. It can be about spending time where you want to spend time, right? So as long as it is something that is happening transparently with the employer and the employer is okay, I think it's absolutely all right. And I see that this is something that will become one of the things that will be a part of an employer branding. So the way flexi time, etc., became integral to attracting talent, I think in the war of talent, which is always something that is on, especially in the IT industry, etc., this will become a differentiator for employers. If for certain roles they are able to kind of go ahead and say, hey, this is something that we provide, I see there'll be many takers. So that's my view. So I think a lot of work has already started. Like it shows in the ease of doing business index, etc. Like we've moved significantly. But lots and lots of this needs to be done and needs to be done more speedily. So while we have reduced the number of compliances to a great extent, we've also made it digitized. We've got these single portal clearances for MSMEs and one ration card and stuff like that, which has been part of easing the compliance burden to some extent. However, lot of this needs to be done. So, for example, especially with small enterprises and startups, etc., it's extremely important that there is this proactive outreach from the government to make them aware in the first instance, because it's not easy understanding the law of the land at any given point of time. So you have and you have these laws also keeping they keep changing, right? So it's not just the quantum of them; it's also that how tenuous they are, right? So it'll be one thing someday, and then the next year will be something else. And this really wide population of startups and companies who don't have, these are 2 employees, 3 employees kind of companies. They don't really are that aware of what's happening. So can government do outreach programs to make them aware is I think something that could be done. The second thing that could be done is just co-creation of these solutions, right? So it doesn't have to be top down. So if you're creating these industry circles, industry bodies that are coming together and saying that, hey, instead of these 100 laws, we need just one, and this is the portal through which it will happen. So instead of one government body working on it, you have, let's say, thousands of such circles across the country that are working on different solutions relevant to those micro level problems, enterprises, etc. Because there's also a state angle to this whole thing. It's not just an India level thing, right? Even at a state level, there are a lot of compliances that are different. So I think the more one can make the solutioning micro, tech enabled, and speedy, the better our chances of not being proud of just being in that 60s in the ease of doing business, but getting into the top 10, top 20, because otherwise it's going to be a long journey for us to clear that. So those are some of the things that I can think of. So I think there are 2 things. And I think both of these things have been a mainstay for a fairly long time. The first one is technology and more technology and more technology, right? So for example, just to tell you, AI used to be a fancy word, right? Artificial intelligence used to be a fancy word about just 2 years back, right? So companies were doing it experimentally because, there were these advisors who were telling them that you'll miss out if you don't do it. Now you have scalable solutions around AI that help a company either better reach the customer or faster reach the customer or understand the customer better or sell a product better, etc. So it's becoming pretty integral. And similarly, you will see that everything that changes in technology, it would be really quick. So you would think this is something that will hit you 5 years hence. But hey, it's something that would be just around the corner, 6 months away and 1 year away. So I think that's the That's the one thing that would be extremely important, that all companies would need to double down and triple down on technology relevant to their sector. And the second thing is diversity of talent, right? It's extremely important that, and when I say diversity, gender is a big part of it, but so is sexual orientation, so is regionality, so is internationality, the kind of skills you bring to the table, etc. Right? So what's becoming more and more clear is that the problems are going to become more and more complex. They are not going to be linear. So the solutioning that will need to be done will have to be through multiple hats. So it has to be not just from that, functional layer only. So if that is the kind of problem that's going to exist, then your teams have to be built accordingly. And diversity is something that would become absolutely integral to building those solutions. You will not be able to solve a problem till you have talent representation that is able to look at that problem through that multi-dimensional lens. So in my view, that's something that organizations have to do repeatedly, consistently, and at scale. So those two things.